Picture this, if you will. The second season of Flight of the Conchords was just released on HBO. A young Barack Obama became the 44th president of the United States of America. And Adam Maness and Peter Martin are still just playing jazz piano places. Nothing has changed.
I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't have HBO.
I'm Adam Maness.
And I'm Peter Martin.
And you're listening to the You'll Hear It podcast.
Daily jazz advice coming at you.
That's right. And why are we going back 10 years, Pete?
Well, because one of our listeners asked us to, and we will do just about anything for our listeners.
We do love our listeners, and we love our listener questions. Shout out to you'llhearit.com. That's the spot you want to go to if you want to ask us a question. And
you're shouting out the webpage?
I'm shouting out our own webpage.
All right, got it.
Yeah. So we got a question from Mark and Corey in Glastonbury, UK. And they say, "Hi there, I've got a question that I'd love to ask Peter and Adam. Is there anything that you have learnt or realized that you...
Learnt?
Yes, Mark...
Is that how they talk in Glastonbury?
I think it might be. Learnt or realized that you wish you found out 10 years ago. Me and my wife are learning jazz standards for piano and voice. Many, many thanks for the amazing content." Well, you're welcome, Mark and Corey. And we're going to learn you some new stuff today, hopefully. But, I was actually thinking about this question, and I think the answers might surprise Mark and Corey because, there's no scale that I knew 10 years ago. There's no lick I knew 10 years ago that I didn't know 10 years ago.
So you've been in some stagnant learning, sounds like, the last 10 years.
No. I mean, there's nothing I know now as far as that. But I have learned a great deal. But it's more about, how to be a more effective improviser, how to listen better, you know what I mean? How to manage my time, those kind of things.
Yeah. Well, no, that makes a lot of sense, and I feel very, hearing you say that, I realize how similar I feel in that all those basic building blocks, I think I knew them 10 years ago, for sure. Whether or not I was applying them all, effectively is another question. But yeah, there's no so if you 5 years ago, the sharp 11 is Lydian, awesome, But
that's probably our age too, a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly, yeah. Especially me. But I do think I've learned. I don't know. It's funny because there's a fine line between what did you wish you knew, which is what the question was, right?
Yeah.
And what have I learned since then?
Right.
And a lot of the things that I have learned, it would be a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction for me to just say I wish I'd known them then. But because I think, especially the things I've learned in the last 5 to 10 years, I don't think I was ready for 10 years ago, or was just starting to get ready.
I was thinking the same thing. So in the last 10 years, I've had 2 children, and I've learned more from experiencing that, fatherhood,
right,
that I could have told my 29-year-old self, but he would have been like, "What the hell are you talking about, man? We're good to go."
29-year-old Adam wasn't ready for that.
Time management, schmime management, right. I'm going out,
Well, it's kind of like the thing, I tell a lot of, because my kids are older than yours, and I've told you this before, and other young parents, the same thing I used to hear from older parents that irritated me so much is just enjoy every moment when they're young because it goes by fast.
Yeah, it does.
So it's kind of I wish I'd known that then, but I did. People were saying that.
Everybody says we
weren't ready for it.
You weren't ready. That's the thing is I don't think anything I've learned in the last 10 years would apply to I was just such a different person. Yeah. And then, it's like you said, it's you kind of learn, learning is really absorbing the information. We all have the same information.
Right.
We all have the same wise quotes or whatever, but it's kind of like when you're at a stage to really absorb it and to make it a part of you, any of that knowledge, whether that's jazz piano chords or, how to, discipline a 4-year-old. Those are all waiting for you when you're ready for them. So it's almost a moot exercise to say what do I wish I would have learned or information I would have had 10 years ago, because I just, like you said, I wasn't ready for it.
Yeah, and I mean, interestingly, I'd say in the last 10 years, I've had to really relearn or recommit to some things that I actually learned pretty well when I was young, certainly before 10 years ago. So that becomes an interesting question too. We should never feel I knew everything I needed to know at that time, and I'm learning only what I need to learn for this period of my musical development or even my life. But some of these things cycle. So there was a time when I had really, really good focus and concentration. Actually, when I was relatively young, and it was because of music. And that was, I mean, I had some great teachers and really good schooling as well. But like music focused me. Like music, I mean, I don't want to be dramatic, and people say music saved my life, but in a lot of ways it did.
Yeah,
you know,
I'm the same way.
And it like set me up for a number of different things, and so it gave me like that laser focus because I was so passionate about it and obsessed about it.
Yeah.
And everybody gets obsessed with some things, but it's like, you know, thankfully I got obsessed with jazz as opposed to heroin,
Yeah.
you know, or something. And so, you know, as time goes along, like we've entered this period where it's become harder to focus. And so like I kind of lost that for a while. I never lost it, but I got involved with a lot of different things and then didn't have to. I still had the passion for music, but I got passionate about some other things. So like I had to kind of relearn it. It was actually fun and reinvigorating to me in terms of just my focus on the instrument stuff and being able to do that. So I think always that, you know, looking back is never as interesting to me. Like, what did I wish that I'd known? Like, I'm so much in the moment, you know, and I think that that's such an important thing. But, you know, the things that, in terms of when we're teaching people that are younger or older, it's more like the sort of stage of development.
Yeah.
We're very much about sharing the knowledge, sharing the information, because there's a lot of things that I know that other pianists or musicians don't know, just like there's a lot of things that other musicians know that I don't know, and I listen to them, I read, I'm constantly trying to learn, because, you know, even if the timing isn't right, you need to hear stuff sometimes for a while, and then the timing's right.
That's right. You know what maybe we could do for Mark and Corey and anybody else who wants sort of like, I think, what they're getting at this question? Maybe we can just make a little list here of some basic building blocks that everybody needs to have to kind of start out at this level and begin the real journey after that. You know what I mean? So like, so Mark and Corey, some things that you need to do to actually be good at playing jazz are
hip clothes. No, okay.
No, I mean, some things to focus on, I think, are definitely like listening and transcribing. Those are two biggest things. The third thing is to put more of an emphasis on time and groove and feel than almost anything else.
And building up your confidence with the time and feel.
That's right.
So you're doing concrete things to work on it, but you're also doing those kind of activities in terms of, you know, performing, playing with others, getting yourself out of your comfort zone so that you can stretch and so that your confidence can go up.
All of the harmonic and scales and all that stuff, that's all available, and you will learn that. But if you can't develop that groove and that time feel early,
you're going to suck.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, you and I know a lot about harmony and stuff, but there's still stuff we're learning all the time, because it's kind of infinite, and it's all these different layers to it. So, you know, don't feel like you should put so much emphasis on that. Focus on the time, focus on the groove, focus on the feel. I think find a community as fast as possible, because those are really going to help you. Communities of other musicians who you can play with and learn from are going to really kick your playing up into a higher gear. Find a good teacher or a good website that happens to teach jazz. All these things that can pinpoint your weaknesses and then work on those weaknesses. Work them up to your strengths.
Yeah, that's all just great stuff. And I would just the one thing I would think to add that you could kind of weave into many of those things is do not be afraid to make mistakes. You know, that's in terms of, but learn from them and don't repeat them.
That's right.
You know, so that's a way for actually rapid development in your playing.
To take risks.
You know, but both on the like real micro level of like phrases that you play, things that you experiment with, but also in terms of your development. So it's like, we're going to give you a blueprint on some things, but then stretch out a little bit and try something that's out of your comfort zone, or don't just do it exactly in order. And I guess that's one area I would say, you know, that I wish that I knew that 10 years ago, but not like I know it now. Like now I'm very confident with forcing ahead and potentially making a mistake because I know like how valuable. I almost like I expect it. And in terms of music, in terms of just my life or whatever. And obviously, you know, we're calculating these things. We're not, you know, getting into our vehicle and then drinking alcohol and then saying, I'm going to make a mistake now. It's not that. It's not a recklessness, but it's a really, you know, a confidence in stretching yourself and in knowing what the benefits of that are for you.
That's right. And if I could add just one final thing to this that I think every good jazz musicians need to have, and that is to fall in love with the process. Fall in love with practicing.
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry so much about the results, especially at first.
Yeah.
Fall in love with the try. I saw this great interview with Robert Redford, obviously amazing actor, really amazing guy.
Yeah.
And he had a great quote, I believe it was from T.S. Eliot, and it was something like, all there is the try. We have no control over anything else. I'm paraphrasing. It was
Yeah.
probably much more eloquent than that. But I love that, and I think that quote sums up what it's like to be a jazz musician. All you can control is how you practice, how much you practice, the try of it. Leave the results up to another day. It's really about the process of this, and if you can fall in love with that and get a good process going, you'll be fine.
Yep, I love it. Well, good stuff. Until tomorrow.
You'll hear it.